to it.
We are live, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, all right.
I didn't know.
It's, minute off.
Oh, we got 5 minutes.
Yes.
I looked at sandwich boards, you know, for the Civic Center, and I have one I wanna use, I think our resident expert. And, run one by you, but it has a broader base that looked to me like, instead of blowing over in some of the winds.
Yeah, we just got one that you can come down and look.
Okay, yeah,
sometime.
maybe
Yeah,
it's the same
really,
thing.
we really like it,
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice and it's supposed to be more sturdy in the wind and stuff, so you can look at that.
Who's Stillwell running the outside?
This was the worst winter weather.
Is the what?
Russ? Stillman?
Oh, Stiltman?
Siltman?
Siltman.
Siltman,
Siltman,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
got me all confused now too.
That's why we were like we were in February.
Well, we had some interesting attorney discussions on
My
Monday
sump
that I'll
ran
share with you later on.
Where was that at?
It was
We
with
got rain
Mia
Christmas.
Thibodeau and the Bolton and Manx attorney, and then Josh, you know, the lead guy for the Bolton and Manx. It was on the
Look, there's
issues
animals coming back.
of how far
Been a pair of
municipality
swans
can
on
go
The lake.
in agreeing to some of the standard
No,
terms
the pit.
in
I
the
shouldn't call it- I
form
call it a
professional
lake.
services contract addendums
Because
for
there's been
like
open
general
water
conditions.
In between. the
Anyway, it
pits,
was an
but
interesting
that area for
discussion.
quite a while,
She-
it's gotten bigger
She
now.
shared
They've been
things
back
from the League of Minnesota
almost
Cities
3 weeks.
Trust and
I'm sure they're gonna move on. as soon
one
as they
other,
find
I can't
something
remember what
that's
other
got more
source it
food in
was, but
then
that was supporting the fact, for instance, on indemnification. We'll just talk about it maybe, yeah. So I thought it was like a CLE. So,
You hope you don't have to get there.
oh, I didn't want to get there, no, but I could at least understand what they were talking about. You know.
They're down in Arizona.
Yep.
They got their place till the 15th.
Oh,
So Luke, did you guys curl yet, or is that coming up?
Oh, we're done already.
You're done already? When was that?
It was February 24th.
Oh, God.
oh yeah, the fundraising.
Even if this
Yeah.
one melts,
Yeah, they were maxed out. They had, it was completely full. That's amazing how you can take the whole East Range and put them in that little building there. There's a lot of people there for that
Well,
event.
Mitch and you and.
Rob Hill and
and-
Harry Cascatello.
yeah.
How'd you do?
Our goal was to win one game this year, and we tied one game.
Oh,
I see
So
so many
lost 2 and
groomed-
tied. So it was better than last year, which was no wins,
The ski trail.
and it leaves the bar there for one win
But I
next
don't
year.
it harder
I
than
didn't
it
see
looks
much
like.
sign of anybody
When I was in
using it.
high
Never
school,
tried it.
Jenny always had good curling, so I went down to the curling rink, and how hard can that be to throw a stone? Well, after I had 4 of them bounce off the back thing, there's a little touch to this game.
There is, yep.
Never tried.
You haven't?
I'd like to do it in not such a public forum.
Yeah, maybe,
Yeah, maybe we can go get a
stick
private.
with turkey bowling or something.
For trails, I think.
You might get down to the tuck and never get out, maybe.
Well, that's,
What's the tuck?
If they just wanted to
Classic
make
had me go out the
trails,
first
that's
day
fine.
on the pickleball, you know?
Oh,
And the mines had all the routines from tennis and racquetball and squash and everything. And I get out there and the body did not go along with it. It was so incredible, yeah.
I found with that signing my name, my mind is on K and my hand is still on him.
Oh, yes, well. How are we doing here? Oh, almost there.
Almost done.
Isn't Josh coming or not?
Josh had a conflict, so he's up with us remotely
He's up on
today.
the road, okay.
I was wrong, Mr. Mayor. The cables weren't for hockey. I just apparently didn't grab them correctly.
Oh,
So
okay.
that was on me then for not plugging into the system.
Well, it hasn't, you could do a lot worse things in life. Forget that, so don't get too involved in it, so. That was really good news you can share, I assume, with everybody.
Oh, that's amazing news.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is, yeah.
300 applications and we're one of 14 cities.
It's good to hear you pumped up.
That's unbelievable.
Oh, it's good to be well enough to be in public.
Yeah. All right.
All right, it's 5 o'clock. I'll call our agenda planning session to order, and we don't have a roll call, but we'll welcome back Councilor McClassic, yes, from his southern journeys, and it's good to be at a full strength here. So, let's see, City Administrator, what do you have for us?
Staff updates, and we always start with our librarian staff.
All right.
Okay, I just wanna first say, John, I'm jealous of your tan over there, but welcome back. So yeah, we've been moving forward with lots of plans. We appreciate the positive feedback and suggestions we're receiving, so keep them coming, please. Our art class hosted by 321 Art Studios is finishing this run tomorrow. We've had them for 7 weeks and great turnouts and reviews on the program, and we hope to have them back again next year if they are able to receive another grant. So I finished the annual report for the library with approvals and submitted it, and it's all done until next year, thankfully, because that is, if you know, you all know reports, so yeah. We completed our annual inventory and are starting on weeding out the old to make room for more new items. The items we weed out from our shelves are added to our book sales, and our next book sale is next week on Friday and Saturday, the 12th and 13th, during open library hours. This is hosted by the Aurora Friends of the Library, and then you can come and buy a library bag for $20 and fill it for free. We have a program coming up that will teach people calligraphy, an old dying art that's pretty intriguing. So this will take place on April 17th from 3:30 to 4:30, and it is funded by the ALS Legacy Programming, and there is no sign up for this event. And our next big plans for a big project, we are updating technology and offering more tech help to our patrons. We hope to have things in place in the next few months and are excited to offer more to our patrons.
Well, I'm sure some of the teachers at the school would appreciate the calligraphy for some of the somewhat
Maybe.
awkward writing skills of some of the folks I've heard complained about. So.
Oh, very true.
You're all finished with the report then?
Yep,
All right,
all
good.
done.
Thanks very much.
You're
It's always
welcome.
good to see that center of activity blossoming. City Attorney.
Just update, waiting to get the deed signed on the Nygaard. Been a delay, we're supposed to come in last week, there was snow, and then we called again. I said I'd drive up to Vermillion and get them to sign it. They did call in today, and there was a death in the family, quote unquote, they will come in tomorrow to sign the deed, so hopefully it'll be signed tomorrow.
The check's in the mail, so to
Yeah.
speak.
All right. That's the only update I have at this time, Mayor.
All right, very good. Say, I don't know, I noticed on our agenda, we have a few tax forfeit parcels. Where does that whole quagmire sit? It'd be, in terms of the freeze on tax forfeit parcel transfers and everything else. I realize we have to set up and take our actions, put it in motion, but.
So, hot off the press, I believe there is a fix in the state legislature in this session to take care of all that. So what I am told is that we're just to keep moving forward with these, get them kind of to the finish line, and they sit there. And hopefully the fix is voted on and approved and made law this session, and then we'll be able to purchase the properties as normal.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting.
That was where the tax forfeited, and if the property is worth, say, 70,000, and it went tax forfeited, for 6,000, there's a case, I think, in the Twin Cities where the realized gain should have probably went to the homeowner and not to the county. So that's what threw the kibosh and all of this.
It really threw a monkey wrench in the works for the whole tax forfeited parcel industry out there, really huge numbers of transactions. Yeah. Let's see, City Administrator, we'll go to Bolton and Banks.
Yeah,
Okay.
Josh is with
City
us.
Engineer, Josh, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Mayor. Some big news to share. So we've been talking about West First Avenue now for about a year. Council authorized back in June final design of that project. We submitted an LRIP grant, which is the MnDOT Local Road Improvement Program, requested an amount of $1.5 million, which is the max amount award through the grant. We learned yesterday that we were successful. So the way that grant is broke out, so the legislature last bonding session allocated $103 million, I think, for roadway projects to be administered through MnDOT. And then they segregated out from there. Counties get a portion of that money, state aid cities get a portion of that money, and then non-state aid cities, and then townships are eligible. So I think the way it breaks out is counties get like 40%, cities get 20, and then townships are eligible for 10. Point being, there's about $20 million split out between non-state aid cities, and we're getting 1.5 million of that. So we were one of probably 120 applications from non-state aid cities, and one of only 2 from District 1 that were successful. So we had a solid application, and I think we struck the right chords, and that obviously resonated with the review committee. So, so what that grant will cover is any surface improvements on that project. So pavement, sidewalk, curb and gutter, storm sewer, lighting to some extent is eligible. Decorative lighting is not. But also city utilities are not eligible either. So it's strictly surface improvements for the roadway. It does state fund the project, so it will be subject now to prevailing wage rates, things like that. Also, since Aurora is not a state aid city, they have to work with St. Louis County to administer those grant funds. They're essentially just the fiscal agent on it all. But good news all around. A little bit of effort up front, but worked out, and so now working with staff to just figure out the funding plan for the utility piece of it, and we should have a project. So we're anticipating 2025 construction on that one.
If I can interrupt that, Josh, a little bit of the history of, this is where planning to plan kind of comes into play here. We actually wrote a $5,000 grant to the League of Minnesota Cities to write a grant for the LRIP program. So we were successful in getting the $5,000 League of Minnesota Cities grant. We added another $2,000 of our own to have Bolton Mink do the application for us. And through all of that, we now got the $1.5 million. So our overall investment was $2,000 on a $1.5 million return. So that's quite an amazing accomplishment.
Congratulations both to the engineering firm and to you, Luke, and your staff. That's quite a kudo, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Get in place. What is the financing plan? Because the project's actually, what did you say, 2.9, or was it something like that, million?
Yep. We also do have some lead and copper funds in there, and I don't know if Josh was going to go down this path next. We're going to go through financing or go on other projects.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
So we did. So last year we got the project listed on the Department of Health project priority list. PPL is the acronym you'll hear. So we recently submitted last week plans to them to get certified, which what that does, that moves us to the top of the list. So as they allocate money, it basically says our project shall be ready to go. You know, it makes us more eligible for grants and low interest loans. So that went in last week. The IUP, the updated IUP through the Department of Health comes out next fall. So it'll be a couple months before we know where we score on that. But just again, continuing to position this project for as much funding as we possibly can.
We do have lead and copper funds for this project as well. It's about $350,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Luke, sorry.
Yeah, so with that, I mean, between the lead and copper funds and the grant that we got for LRIP, we're already sitting at about 1.85 or 1.9, somewhere in there in grant dollars. So we'll know, like Josh had said, we'll know in the fall for the IUP funding if we qualify for that. And other than that, there's the standard assessments. You know, we have an assessment policy that we could possibly look at for that. There's IRRB fund, infrastructure funding we could look at for that. There's some of our own, dollars that we have in reserves that we've been saving for things like this. So this all but gets it to the doorstep. We just got to figure out the little pieces on the end, kind of finish it up.
Yeah, even a year ago, it was just such a glimmer of hope that there'd be any possibility.
Yeah.
And it's so encouraging. We haven't undertaken a real major street project, right, since Sunset Acres, have we?
Yeah, it's 2016, I think.
Yeah.
We're in the bonding bill for this as well too. We do have $3 million request in the bonding bill. So whether we see that or not, I don't know. But.
And bonding money would not be tied to just surface improvements. Typically, it's not. So that would be a huge help if that came through. The other piece, but all the trail, all that stuff is eligible as well. Yeah, just a good success story here. Pretty excited.
Great. So I think we interrupted your stride there.
A little bit. I also got two kids in the background playing on their iPads, so if you hear some noise, that's what that is. The other big update, obviously the West Industrial Park is a big thing we have going. So open house is scheduled for Thursday, so I'm going to be up there with some of my staff. In the afternoon, we're actually doing a little bit of a similar presentation at the high school to get the younger crowd engaged, get them up to speed on what's going on. But then obviously the bigger event is the evening, where we'll have some boards with all the things we've been working on, seeking public input. Very similar to how the county ran theirs a couple weeks ago. We have had our online survey going for the last couple weeks as well. Generally a positive response. I think people are welcoming the change. Some concerns, as you would expect, with trees and stuff like that, but I think overall everyone's getting really excited. So I'm expecting a good turnout, a positive vibe. I'd be surprised if we had anything different. As far as project progress, we're at about a 60% phase. So working with AP, Adolph and Peterson, our construction manager at Risk. So they have their first precast bid package out, advertised to suppliers. So they're soliciting bids on the actual shell of the building. So we should know in the next couple of weeks what the schedule on precast is going to be, which is really going to be critical path for the building. There's lead times associated with precast right now, so getting that solidified as fast as possible was a critical piece. But there'll be a second bid package coming in May, which will include the streets, some additional building work, the site work, all that. And so once we get through May, we'll be well into construction then this summer. So everything is on track. We have our permit into MnDOT for the access. The one permit hanging out there is the wetland delineation. So once spring finally breaks and the growing season starts, we'll get that done and then start that permit process, which can kind of run concurrently with where we're at. So overall, everything is looking good on the West Industrial Park. Any questions on that one?
Maybe for the audience, it'd be good to mention where and at what time that meeting on Thursday is going to be.
Me just pull up my camera or my calendar. It is 4:30 to 6:30 at the community center.
And that's this Thursday. Yeah, right.
This Thursday, April 4th.
Anything
The
else?
last piece I'd mentioned, so we were successful this winter with some CDBG funds for pavement repairs on Central Avenue. And so we have completed plans, shared those with city staff. Be looking to submit those to the county for review, so they have to give kind of the full buy-off before we solicit quotes on that. So if you recall, we're going to be under the statutory limit to need to competitively bid it, so we'll solicit quotes from local contractors for that work. But overall, moving that one forward as well. The last piece I missed on the LRIP grant, there is no match to that, so it's $1.5 million straight up. I guess this is probably the easiest way to say it, that we don't have to match that with anything.
Say, Josh, just a question on the Central Avenue project. Does that involve any resurfacing on Erie also, or not?
That was in the original application, and then based on, so we requested, I think, 80,000, and they only gave us 20, and so that was
60.
the piece that we cut out of the scope just to meet our project budget.
They gave us 60 and
But it's still
cut 20.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, they gave us 60 and cut 20.
That's what it was. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So, well, Central Avenue, think is by consensus what needs the resurfacing, that's for sure there, so that's good.
Our plan is to go, hopefully once the county identifies a detour route, we can ask them for funds to do Erie Street down to Central, and then we're looking to seal coat also Central all the way across, so that should carry us for another 10 years or so for that area. So it is in the plans.
Cause what, that segment of area, right, was done before a lot of the rework out in Sunset Acres, wasn't it, Richard, or not? Isn't that the
Yes.
oldest section of?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think that north part was done that time.
Nope.
Yeah, right, so.
Central was done in 97. It was
Okay.
rebuilt 97.
So people have been dodging manholes since then? Interesting. Josh,
Probably they worked for
anything
Figure
else
before
to relate to?
That concludes my update today. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, thanks so much. You folks have been quite busy and productive, yeah. Counselors, any questions of Josh before he sums up?
One on the First Avenue,
Councilman
have
Hanson.
you identified the number of homes that need water line replacement?
They all will be replaced.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
they're all in,
Yep.
okay.
That's some of the oldest infrastructure we have in town. 1920s, we're estimating is when it was installed. And quite literally, the water main runs through the sanitary sewer. They dug the sanitary sewer deepest, and then they put the water line on top in the same trench. So as you open up the manholes, you can see the water main inside the manholes. And as fate would have it, when we were flushing sewer lines years ago, a manhole cover fell into the manhole and it cracked the water main, and we had to go in and cut and repair that piece inside of the manhole, so,
Cast iron, I bet.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it'll be really nice to get all of those fixed and updated.
All right, well, thanks again, Josh, so, and it
Good
looks.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, pretty encouraging.
Thank you.
that all these pieces on these projects are falling into place, not accidentally. I'm sure there's a lot of work behind the scenes there. So.
It's been a busy winter, certainly.
Yeah, so, is it fair to ask, oops, yeah,
He's gone.
I wonder,
No, I'm still here. No, I'm still here.
not outcomes, but in terms of progress, is it, do you have any personal insights on how the Hoyt Lakes, capital, sort of assessment situation's going that your firm's handling? Is that, something that might be concluded in the summer, or?
So I'm not specifically leading it myself. I do know we're working towards a resolution. So I don't have any information to share at this moment, but it should be coming in the next month or two.
Yeah, sorry to put you on the spot, but curiosity.
No.
Good answer.
Yeah, it's very diplomatic.
Thank you. I should add, so I know on tonight's old business is the city engineering services contract. So Mayor, after our discussion with Mia this week, we'll look to apply some of that logic and get this buttoned up here so we can get that off the agenda.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I suspected that there would be similar issues embedded in that
Yep.
contract, yeah, so. Let's see, city administrator, any other items to update us on?
Yeah, I guess I'll just real quickly touch on the logging, since we're here for the public. They're just about wrapping up that 80-acre parcel in the industrial park. A lot of it was 100% take, just because of the road and the cul-de-sac and where the building is going. And then we also are putting in 3 stormwater ponds up there to meet stormwater requirements. So a lot of that was 100% take, but in the other areas, we're done where the trail is, so nothing will get cut. What's left that's standing there, we left that big corner kind of intact, as you can see when you're coming in, so none of that'll be taken. And then in the north, it's kind of hard to see where they're at now because they're still in there working, but they're leaving stands of trees up there. We left 5 per acre, and where they were taking full take, where you couldn't leave any, they're gonna leave additional ones in back to kind of make up for that. So they're leaving some of those big historic pines in there for that. The water treatment plant is cut out, and then we're also doing some utility work behind Canute Drive that'll tie this all in. So they're gonna be hopefully wrapped up by the end of this week. They may do a day or two into next week. The last thing I'll touch on with that is the piles that you're seeing that are left that are not getting pulled out. there is a subcontractor coming in that's going to chip all of that. So all of those big piles will not be left, they'll be chipped, they'll be hauled off to Hibbing for biomass, for biofuel. And it should be a relatively really clean site by the time it's all done, so that's what's going on now.
There was, I thought I recalled at one of our prior meetings, just an allusion to a possible phase 2 environmental area or something.
I'm glad you touched on that, because we do need to talk about that. So there was a phase 2 that was done there. NTS was the contractor who did that work. They did detect some, they've got a sniffer and they've got some testing equipment that detected some old off-gassing chemicals from the railroads that were there. So what the city is going to do is enter into, the good news is it's, in their world, it's not a big deal. Okay, so let's preface it with that before we go down this road, because it's gonna sound like it is when we go down it. So what they had said is there's no red flags that come up with this where we're gonna have to worry the site's not buildable anymore, we can't do anything. Essentially what happened is somebody cleaned some railroad car brakes out there or whatever, and that chemical is still there, and they can detect it at a very, very minute amount. So what the city will do now is enter into what's called a Brownsfield program. We voluntarily are reporting that to the MPCA. The MPCA will look at our plans for the project, and our plans for the project couldn't be any better for what you would mitigate that with as a capped road and a building structure, because you're capping it. So we're not anticipating any problems. It'll increase a little bit of cost there, where they're gonna have to test some soils as we go, but the farther away from the railroad grade we get, the better it will be. And Josh can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in the building we'll have to put a 6 mil plastic down to kind of keep that from coming in there, which isn't a real big thing. But you guys should know that the city is going to enter voluntarily a new Brownsfield program. It relieves all of our liability from everything that's out there, so we're not liable for anything. And it was to be expected with the area that we're working. So I guess I don't know if you have any questions with that or not.
The councilors?
No helium?
No helium, unfortunately.
So it was benzene and tetrachloroethylene, which it's just fancy words for traces of gasoline and parts cleaner. So, like Luke was saying, really what it does is it adds a vapor barrier to infrastructure that goes out there, which most buildings these days get vapor barriers anyway. So the big thing is getting it reported to the MPCA, so there's no liability on the city's part. If someone discovers something down the road, they can't say, well, you didn't tell us this was here. So
that won't affect, you said you're gonna put in 3 holding ponds, that
No.
couldn't present a problem there when you start putting.
They'll do stockpiles of the material, and if they found material that was in greater concentration, depending on how high the concentration was, there's different ways that you mitigate it. You know, you might have to do some different things with it, but they're not anticipating having any problems with it.
correct. It was all in that railroad corridor. Nothing by our proposed building site. I mean, it was strictly on that railroad corridor on the north end.
Okay. Well, just thinking of other environmental things, there isn't, one thing, nobody found any historical artifact areas or anything, right? As far as, okay. And the second.
So during our initial, when the IRRR came to us, we did that checklist, and so we did a cultural resources study. Cultural resources study, nothing came out of that. We still do need to submit it to SHPO just to get concurrence from them, since it is new construction. So now that we're at a phase with that 60% phase, that's going to go out this week just to get the process started. Usually takes about a month. Will not hold up construction, but we do have to go through the state just to check the box yet, but I don't anticipate any hiccups with that at this point.
And wetlands were okay in terms of the design relative to the presence?
That's the critical piece yet. So once the growing season starts, we'll be out there right away to get that.
There are wetlands that are out there, but there's nothing that we're gonna be building on.
Yeah.
The permit that we would get would be a temporary easement, or temporary, Josh can explain it a little bit better, but it's a temporary disturbance to put the utilities in, and then it would go back to normal wetlands. So it's not anything that we're gonna need to permanently to do anything with. And we're actually creating wetlands with the ponds that we're building out there, so we don't anticipate any problems with that.
Correct. There'll be a temporary impact permit, they call it. So you dig your utilities in, and then you just restore it with the proper vegetation.
Well, that all
We do-
sounds pretty encouraging, doesn't it?
We do anticipate there's a wetland on that south side where kind of those nice trees as you're coming into Aurora and where that low spot, I mean, that's certainly wetland, so that's where we'll be delineating.
City administrator, more.
Well, I guess I'll go into the agenda if we got a couple minutes here, just, if you guys are, if you have any questions left for that. Couple things we have is, a write-off of tax certified accounts. There's good news and bad news with this. The bad news is that we will not get this money back. It's utilities that have gone tax forfeit, so there's no way to get these back. The accounts that we write off at the end of the year go on the tax roll, and then we do get those back. These ones, they've gone tax forfeit, there's no way to get them back. That's the bad news. The good news is, we're buying them,
Yeah.
so, but we would have to just pay them anyways if we were able to get them back. So what we're going to be voting on tonight to write off, these two properties are in the trailer court. We've submitted a holding application to the county already that we're interested in these, and we'll pick them up and we'll demo them. I was actually talking to John today. One of them has a 24 by 24 garage on it that's pretty decent shape, and that might make a nice warming shack for us. So one of these tax forfeit things, we may be able to repurpose, hire a contractor to move it, build a pad, and use the garage in a different location, and we get a tax forfeit. So we'll definitely be looking into something like that. And then we'll demo the trailer that's left and clean those up. So we do have two trailers that we'll be demoing in one garage this summer. I did put in an application for that. I just submitted it today, and the Nygaard property is what we're waiting on for the other one, which is just some signatures. We do have a handshake on that. So we'll have a couple of them that we'll demo this year. If we can, depending on the state legislature and how fast the county can move, we could potentially maybe get these other ones done this year, but for sure we'd get after them in 2025. So that's what's on there for the tax write-off, the resolutions for the tax forfeit land purchase and the certified accounts. There's an animal ordinance amendment that we're gonna bring forward tonight. Essentially, right now, how it is everybody gets animal licenses annually, the first of the year. What we'd like to do is change that. Now, it's not gonna change this year, so people have already purchased their licenses this year, so we would look for a motion to change the ordinance starting in 2025. What we would do is base it off of their rabies vaccinations. So if they get a 3 rabies vaccination, they could pay for the 3 years up front with the certificate, and then they wouldn't come back, so it just saves them coming in every single year. Because basically, really, it's based off of the rabies shot. I mean, that's really what's driving it. So that would be the only change, is that we would, next year in 2025, base it off of their rabies certificates, not off of an annual timeline. Citywide cleanup, we'll look to do that this year. No real changes from last year. I talked with Russ about that, and we'd like to do it the first week of June, if that's all right with everybody. That ensures that we've got full summer staff on board. So, and it kind of gets us past that cemetery Memorial Weekend cleanup and gives us a little chance to breathe at the end of that one. So we'll look to do that the first week of June. We'd like to start a cannabis enforcement committee. So now that the state is gonna be rolling out dispensaries and grow operations and things like that, we feel like we should have a member of, the police chief, whoever he would like to assign from his staff, our deputy clerk, council member, mayor, whoever we'd like to put on from the panel here to get what does that look like in Aurora? Do we want to limit dispensaries? Do we want to have 1 license, 2 licenses, 5 licenses? So we really need to get some input from multiple people.
Yeah, we'll probably get much clearer guidance from the legislature. They were cleaning up a lot of loose ends, right? And I think
Yes.
that Office of Cannabis Management is going, so, yeah, it'd be good to, I know I'm supposed to be the weed inspector for the city, but I don't think it carries with it that responsibility.
And then the last thing is we'll be looking to approve hiring advertising for summer laborers tonight, and I would say, looking at the calendar, we'd want to run that April 7th, advertising in the paper on the 7th, and running that through the 26th. We have budgeted 5 employees at $14.50 an hour, and we have 1 lead operator, 1 lead worker again at $20 an hour. So then we would look to hire those at the first council meeting in May. And that's all we got, because I think the time is.
And then the parking lot will be going in too, come to think of it, in Pine Grove, right?
It should be, yeah, it should be in by the end of May. Parking lot should be in, we should be first on the list.
Councilors, questions of the city administrator or anything to set up our meeting?
I just had one quick question on the cutting. Are they gonna do anything on the plantation? I didn't ask you that, or are they staying away from that?
Which plantation are you?
The 40 by the, north of the pit?
When I talked with Kim, he really didn't have any, he was a little bit worried that they were gonna disturb the root systems on the trees and stuff right now, cause the frost is out of the ground. So as of right now, we don't have any plans to take anything out of there.
Okay.
Okay, I believe it's 5:30, so entertain motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Hess. Supported. Councilor Godey, we see no discussion. All those in favor say aye. We don't have to say no, but aye. All right, we stand adjourned on our agenda planning. Thank you, Jen, for your report. Oh, take a breath, huh? And you're ready to go on the camera? All right, very good. Welcome, Mr. Sagler. So
We can call the.
we can go ahead, right?
Yep, call it order.
All right, I'll call the meeting to order, our regular first of the month city council meeting, which has been preceded by our agenda planning session. Date's August 2nd of 2024. And I wonder if we could have a roll call, please.
Sure can. Godey.
Yes.
Klausich.
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
Hess.
Here.
Gregor.
Here. So we have a full complement physically present, and let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. And for those watching in the audience, this is the portion of the agenda by which we, in mass, kind of approve a number of regular items unless any of the council members want to have them pulled out for special consideration. So councilors, any consent agenda items that you want addressed separately? All right, not seeing any then, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move we approve it, the
I'll
consent
second.
agenda.
Moved by Councilor Hanson, seconded by Councilor Hess. Any further discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So our consent agenda is adopted. Moving next to appearances in public forum. Mr. Segler, this is the opportunity when you have officially to be able to address the council and share with us your insights on the community.
The only thing is I talked from last month about that house on 4th Avenue, the corner there. I think St. Louis has got it.
Yeah.
County.
The one with
Have
the,
you heard anything?
I have not heard back from them yet. I'm waiting still to hear who's even in charge of that project. So I've not heard anything, but I will give you an update on this. The county has started a pilot program. Now, it's not this house, but there's another house on 2nd Avenue where they're gonna try and take foreclosures now, and they've got grant money to fix them up and sell them and put them back on the market. There's 2 houses in Chisholm, there's 2 in Evelyn, and Aurora has 1. So we're kind of the kickoff kind of to this thing, and we've got a meeting Thursday on it. So we may be turning a house over, trying to get it fixed up. It's money that's grant money that's available. AEOA is gonna run it, I believe. They'll take care of it and get that one fixed. It doesn't fix that one. I do believe that's what's holding that up, possibly could be that court case that's.
so this is the house at the southeast corner, kind of the high school complex?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that would
Yep.
be wonderful to
Yep.
get that addressed, so.
I will keep trying to reach out and get a contact on that.
Anything further, Mr. Segler?
I got,
All right, well.
I got a lot of other stuff, but.
Well, this would be your time to share it if you were going to. All right, so seeing no other members of the public present, and I assume nobody else is online, we'll move on then. We've had reports from staff members in our preceding meeting, nothing further, city
Nothing
administrator. All right, Moving on to agenda item 14 then, report from counselors. Let's see, I don't know whether to go with the newest arrival or the, let's see. Councilor McClassick, we'll welcome you back and see if you have anything to report.
Well, we've got the volunteer banquet going on April 25th. So I was asked to bring that up and let the public know that volunteers are welcome to come to the community center. I believe that starts at 5 and goes until 7.
And we'll feed them.
Yes.
Yes. Maybe even entertain them a little.
Yes. And Luke, do you want me to talk more? Okay. The other thing is, I think we got a late email out about the pickleball courts and what phase 2 is gonna look like this summer. We received 2 grants, $2,500 from Minnesota Agewell. That $2,500 will be spent on 2 more benches for inside the park, or inside the court, and then also a plastic shed, so to speak, from Menards that'll house like a squeegee, balls, that sort of thing, and that'll be locked on the court, and it'll be fastened to the court so people can't tip it over and that sort of thing. But a combination will be given to numerous people, so if anybody needs that, to open that, they can certainly do that. And then we also received a second phase tourism grant from the IRRB for $17,000. And we'll be working with St. Louis County. We're looking to put in 5 to 6, 2 to 2.5 inch diameter trees, primarily on the east side, on the west side, between the sidewalk and the court, where the current ATV mud pile is. We're also going to purchase with that money 3 flower pots that'll go on the corner, between the power pole that's there in the court. And we're also going to erect a little kiosk similar to what's down at Pine Grove Park. It's the exact same dimensions, that talks about the golf course that's down there, the disc golf course. It'll allow us to, under plexiglass, put some information as far as what the rules of the court are, as well as the availability of the court for different types of play and that sort of thing.
It'll be exciting. We'll have to have some kind of an official opening ceremony, I guess.
Yeah, and if everything aligns, we hope to do it this spring, so we can get the trees in and then keep them watered and that sort of thing so they catch. But we've got to work with the county first to make sure that, we're not putting them too close to what they're going to do when they dig. But I think there's plenty of room there, and I don't think we'll have an issue. That's all I've got.
Great.
Pretty good for not being here, huh?
Very informative, yes. I'm glad you kept in touch. So, Councilor Hanson.
I have nothing at this time.
Nothing to report, okay. Councilor Godey?
I just have a couple things. I just wanted to mention to the public that the HRA is working on the grants that they will be giving out to help people with little home projects, and we're still working on trying to get extra money for sure, and we may increase the number. We had 10 last year, it may be more, but just start thinking about applying if you have a project. It's pretty simple, but there are rules to stay within, and when they finally make the decision who will receive the awards. Rams had sent people down to the state this last month, and one of the things they talked about was the shortage of money for the ambulance services, and it was 122 million was the statewide shortage amount, and it looks like at that time the legislature only gave 16 million to help the ambulance service, but it wasn't completely closed. There could have been more added since I was given this information. And I was really happy that the Main Street project had a very good turnout, a lot of interest. It makes you know that the people care about their city. So, and we have the pancake feed coming up for the fire department on April 14th, and it's a good thing to support. That's all I have.
Councilor Hess.
I don't have too much, but I got one thing that probably concerns the pickleball court too, and I think that the city should look at putting a satellite over there this summer in the corner where the trail is, for the ATV trail in the corner of the court that would be used by both parties. I think the city could afford to do that for that.
I would agree.
Yeah, we can do that.
probably, I don't know what kind you want to put in there, but something that, put it over on the east side, John, in the corner there on the blacktop.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and, chain it to the fence, or secure it to the fence.
We'll probably have to work with the contractor to find out where they can reach it with their vehicle too.
Well, they can
drive right on
They
it.
could drive right on the
Are you
blacktop.
comfortable with them driving on the
Yeah,
blacktop?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay,
that's heavy enough, that blacktop,
Okay.
yeah, so
okay,
I think that'd be a good gesture on our part.
okay.
Yeah, we already have a contractor for
Right, right.
Red Grove, so that'd be good.
That's the only thing I got.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, I appreciate everybody doing such an able job in my absence last time. The first of the month there, Councilor Hess was the acting mayor there, and we were down lobbying. It was interesting just to echo what Councilor Godey was saying, that just pervasive discussions down there on this EMS problem. And last I heard also was something smaller amount available at the current time, but the common consensus was 120 to 122 million needed. And so hopefully some resolution will come out of that. Let's see, just some updates on some of the meetings that I go to. The CAP Community Advisory Panel meetings on that. We had a very thorough update on the pulsar helium overview. And I guess I personally hadn't realized how close it is to us in terms of just being basically north and a little northeast there in a rock formation. They're doing an initial public offering on the Toronto Exchange. I was also impressed that the small footprint, when we think of any of these projects and we think of the state regulatory processes, it's got to be less potential for that. It's only like a 1.5 acre tract that they're using as the initial staging area. So that was some pulsar helium. I guess we'll look forward to it. And we had a little discussion on the tax implications, but it seemed like we didn't want to get the cart before the horse. And so we do that. New Range Copper gave an update, Simon Charter. They have a new website. They're up to 62 employees. And he described a massive sort of steel salvage operation that's been going on. They have 8 major truckloads per day. They're only 20% done. I'm not that familiar with that whole complex campus and everything else, but apparently just a huge legacy of steel structure and materials that they will not necessarily be needing in their new operations, and they're taking advantage of this window to clean up the site on that. They still have 2 permits that are contested, but other than frustration, they're not pessimistic about the outcome ultimately on those. The East Range Joint Powers Board is positioning itself to do a new residential pre-sale renovation loan program for homeowners in town who are wanting to sell their houses, but they're not up to loan standards for the federal loan programs. This would be a loan program that's specifically designed for like a 90-day window before the sales, and make funds available to enable them to get to the closing and then repay the loan. So it's, if you know someone that's in a position like that, that would be good to share them that kind of relief's going to be coming. The Water Board report, Luke, I don't know where to begin on this. Yeah. Let's just say it's robustly proceeding forward. The contracts for the contractors have been awarded. The necessary commitments on financing, including our own $12 million commitment for loan financing, are sufficiently in place that I believe the Minnesota Management and Budget Office is very reassured, and I guess we haven't talked about the fact the Environmental Protection Agency approved, finally came through with the last approval on their administrative hurdles, and that means that opens up the $6.5 million of earmark money, or congressionally designated spending money that we got for the project from the federal government. And that money in combination with the pre-existing state bond monies and the IRRB monies, Luke's got the whole schedule laid out, but all of that enables us to cash flow for a long period of time before any drawdowns have to come on our $12 million principal loan, which hopefully will be for a principal less than $12 million based on the technical committee that Luke and Bolton and Mink and a number of other people are working to what they do, value engineering, right, to kind of see where economies without sacrificing qualities can be made. So that part of the project is moving ahead well. I've been down 2 or 3 times already arguing for additional funding under the Public Facilities Authority's Water Infrastructure Grant Program, and going down again tomorrow with some other folks for looking for $4 million in bond money, all of which we're trying to do is take that $12 million loan, keep reducing the principal on it down to a level where our residents can better afford the costs of servicing that loan as we go ahead. So those are all, we still have a little engineering data to transfer from our prior contractor there. And am I missing anything on the water project?
No.
Pretty much kind of an overview.
Yeah, may I ask one question? On that water project, when will they start actually on the water plant?
The water
Are
plant.
they gonna do it is the pumping station first, or?
Nope, the plant will start first.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the piping could even be done this year, couldn't it?
Yeah, the piping should be done by the end of the year, and Scenic Acres most likely will be off of our water system by the end of the year.
I've just got one question is, when they do start on the water plant, where are you gonna put recycling? I've heard it's gonna go to the landfill.
We do not have a plan for that right now.
Okay, cause, you know, how rumors are, and they're saying, somebody said that it's gonna go up to the landfill.
Ironically, the project's now moving so fast, we do have some questions and
Yeah.
things that we haven't resolved on
Yeah,
that.
we don't know.
Okay. Just wondering.
Yep.
All right, so that's on there. The volunteer recognition event, again, was alluded to, and, that's coming up on April 25th from 5 to 7. We got that. I'm gonna start working on the snapshot edition. We haven't had one for 6 months. Try to catch up on that. If anybody, let's see all those hands fly up there, but anybody wanna help work on that, or something, it's usually a group effort to put together on things. But anyway, that should be in the offing. And just kind of lastly, I just want to express real appreciation to the staff and to the engineering service. Everybody, we've gone through, I analogize it to the snake that bites off its meal and then it's got a huge bulge that has to work through. The administrative staff has just done an amazing job getting us through a very, very challenging time, I think, for city programs and administration. And the results will become vividly evident to everybody over the next couple of years of what's going on. But it's a lot to ask on top of the ordinary work that's been on their shoulders. And I think we need to stop for a moment and express some appreciation for that, because we have a crack team in place, and they've been challenged, and hopefully now it'll just play out a little better. Things. So that's the mayor's report. All right. Moving on to agenda item 16, old business, 16.1 on franchise fees. City administrator, this is a work in progress, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's just waiting on direction from the mayor and council. If you guys want to change the ordinance to reflect that we want to leave the electric as is, do you want to add the gas? There's already a gas ordinance in there that calls for it, but there's not a number that's in there. It's just waiting on direction if you wanna just wait, if they not do anything with the franchise fees right now, that's an option, we can just remove it from the old business. You know, we had the report, it was presented, and it's just up to you guys. Again, we currently have an electric, franchise fee. We do not have a gas franchise fee, even though language is in there, just because we don't have the percentage that's listed in that. So you could leave the electric alone and add the gas, you could not add the gas, and just leave it as is. It's really up to you guys on what you wanna do with that. Franchise fees, they're applicable to everybody, so people who don't pay property taxes, it's a good way to recoup it, but it is a pass-through, so it is, residents would be paying that. So they had estimated about $35,000 to $40,000 in revenue possibly by adding the gas, if you wanna believe electric as is, but staff is indifferent to it, really just needs to come from direction from above on what you guys would like to do.
Counselor Hanson, you had some comments and observations on
Well,
that,
I
right?
think recently we've gone to that well quite a bit, and I think maybe the residents of the city would be grateful for a pause in new fees. $35,000 or $40,000, I think maybe if I would tend to think if we wait and see how our investments through Ellers produce, we may see that $35,000 or $40,000 somewhere else.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too, with the number of fees that we've pushed through in the last 6 months, 8 months, and with also the future fees that we're gonna be pushing through, you know, that we need to for the water plant and that sort of thing. I'm with Counselor Hanson on not pushing that forward at this time. I realize, you know, it is the 30 to 32,000, but you get that 1 year, and then the next year it would just assimilate into the budget, and it would be there forever. So I'm of the assumption too, or of the opinion that I'd like to hold off on that right now until we actually need it. And I also agree that, you know, using the potential Ellers, you know, any interest income we get from there to offset that lack of 34,000 would be prudent to use.
Counselor Godey or Hess, comments or anything? I don't
No,
wanna put you
I
on the spot, but.
I would like to see it in place, but I would sit and wait a year to see what happens, you know?
You know, I could see, Counselor Godey, I don't wanna step on
Oh,
on your
no.
toes.
I just think it should have been in place years ago, too bad it wasn't, and it is true that we've had a lot of added little fees, and a lot of older single income retirees are living in Aurora, but I just really am on the fence.
Yeah, I'd like to see the loan on the water project play out to see whether we're successful in reducing it down from a potential, either $75 or $93 amount down to more like the $49 that we projected. And that would at least, I think, be somewhat respectful of the demands we're putting on our residents there. By the way, one of the items that driving someone down that's going to testify on a bill to increase the taconite tax relief, property tax relief fund that could have a very profoundly positive influence on all of us in the taconite area. The mines have been producing well, the taconite revenues are up, and the idea would be that the credit we get on each of our property tax statements would be greater, and therefore the tax burden on all the residents would be dramatically less. So I think tomorrow's going to be the first hearing on the bill that just got in on the deadline, but that would be nice, because I know, you know, our residents are hurting by the escalating property values and things that have gone on. Commendable though our 4% levy was, it wasn't necessarily matched by some of the other taxing jurisdictions. So, yeah, so I see that maybe, I totally agree with the thing that we don't need to put another burden on right now. I'm seeing though that we could better, like, have a small committee of 2 people or something like that to become informed on the issue, to make sure we have drafts the ordinances that are up to date, and maybe the city attorney could help on that, so that when we decide to manage those and put them in place, we're not just starting from ground zero. I don't know that. Council Hanson, is that something you could be willing to work on a little subcommittee?
Sure. You said the ordinance was in place, correct?
It's in place, the language is in there, it just doesn't speak to a percentage of what to charge.
That's to add the
Yeah.
franchise fee.
And
to
it
the
hasn't
gas.
been revised, right?
It hasn't been revised.
For a
what-
number of years, so I think it's an evolving science out there, and probably the League of Minnesota cities has some models and things, so.
I guess, if I could preface, the reason this whole came about is because we did a financial management plan. And in the financial management plan, Ellers had pointed out our franchise fees and said that it was very odd that we have only electric and not gas. Either you have none or you have both. So we decided, well, let's see what that would look like, and we had them go through and figure all of that out, and that's why they brought that back to you. So it just came from the financial management plan, it's another tool that we could have put in our toolbox. We can certainly revisit it next year, we can start a subcommittee, we can, whatever you guys would like to do.
Yeah. What about the telecommunication companies?
Again, that's gonna be another thing too, where it would be a pass-through, so if we wanna revisit, you know, the telecommunication ones, it would be a pass-through that the residents are gonna be paying as well.
So do we have one in telecommunication right now or not?
We have them in place, but they need to be updated. We do receive funds through some of them.
And Zito's is technically expired, right?
Theirs is expired, but they're paying on an old one through the Lake Connections Agreement, if I'm not mistaken.
So, yeah,
I would make a motion that we table this for now, or make a motion that we'd look at it after the water plant is done, so we know where our rates are then.
Mhm.
In the meantime, we'll get everything in order for it, but I would make a motion that we look at it then.
Well, Richard, when you're making that motion, I mean, when all the rates are in place, or are we talking a year or two? Because it could be 4 years before all those rates are in place, right?
26, yeah, so.
I would say by January 1, 2026, we would have a very good idea of
Yeah.
what those are looking.
Okay, so yeah, so we could put a date on it, when we wanna look at it again?
2 years and
January 1, 2026, we'll look at it then?
that would work.
Okay.
Would it be consistent with your motion that Councilor Hanson and I could maybe just get familiar with the whole thing too as a little subcommittee or what? Yeah. All right, so there was support for that?
I'll support that.
Supported by Councilor McClassich. Further discussion or comments, administration or?
No, I've got a motion that we're going to revisit it in January 1, 2026, and we could start a subcommittee for a couple members if they wanted to chat about it before we bring it up on that date.
Well, long range planning. Good. Well, there's so many exciting things that'll be happening between now and then. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. All right, any further discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we've deferred that matter. City Engineering Services Agreement, I think we.
Make a motion to table that till everything gets worked out.
Right, I think there are just some last minute revisions on that, but at least progress was made this week on it, so, is there a motion to table?
Yeah, Richard made one.
Richard
I'll
made one.
support that.
Supported by Councilor McClassich. Further discussion, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that matter is tabled also, that concludes our old business. Moving on to agenda item 17, first items related to the volunteer event that we had made reference to, that's going to take place on April 25th, and consistent with the importance of all these volunteer activities to the community and everything. I worked with Lindsay and we put together a proclamation that would declare that day as Volunteer Appreciation Day in Aurora, which coincidentally coincides with the National Volunteer Recognition Week. So we're keeping step with our fellow municipalities across the country. And the motions, the proposed form of proclamation is before you. I guess, to me, it's a little uncertain as whether the council proclaims or whether the mayor proclaims, but in any event, I'd entertain a motion to adopt that proposed proclamation.
move we adopt the proclamation.
All right, moved by Counselor Hanson.
I'll support.
Supported by Counselor Godey. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we'll look forward to duly appreciating our many volunteers. It's overwhelming to me, when you think about all the areas of activity our citizens are involved in on volunteer matters. Moving on to 17.2, charitable gambling request, volunteer recognition event. City Administrator, you'll have to explain this a little bit to me.
Yeah, we just used this, last year because it is for a volunteer event, which is eligible for our funds. So it's one of the boxes that we check off. We did use this last year for the dinner and the placemats and things like that. So this isn't, I guess, again, it's an eligible expense that we can use from our gambling funds.
Do we have a recommended request amount?
Last year we did $2,500 was for the meal and for the placemats and things like that. I don't know if you wanna mirror last year's donation amount or less, or what, it's up.
I think it
up
might
to.
be prudent to have more, because last year we had, I think, a blizzard
Yeah.
date of it, and there were various other complications emerging from COVID and everything else, so.
You could do an up to, not to exceed.
Yeah, not to exceed 3,000 or something. I guess I'll make that motion. Is there support?
I'll support that.
Supported by Councilor McCloskey. Further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So we've used some of our generous gambling proceeds there. 17.3, the city administrator had referred to this, temporary summer laborers. Do we need a motion to
Yes.
initiate that process?
Yeah, we need a motion to approve advertising for 5 summer hires at $14.50 an hour and 1 at $20 an hour, starting, we would advertise from April 7th through April 26th.
I'd make the motion.
All right, moved by Councilor Hess.
I'll support that.
Supported by Councilor Godey. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Well, summer's coming.
It's crazy, yeah.
Yeah. 17.4, again, the city administrator had commented on this on our earlier meeting. The write-off of tax certified accounts. City administrator, could you explain that in the relationship maybe to 17.5?
Yep, so 17.4 is the write-off for a couple of delinquent utility accounts and also a blight fine. It's for the 2 properties that we'll be voting on for resolution 2024-2027 tax forfeit land purchases. So while we will not receive the funds from this, they'll be writing them off. We will not acquire those, we will not receive them. We will be purchasing the lands that these are on. So eventually, if we were to get them, we would be paying for them ourselves anyways. So that's basically what it's for, is the 2 accounts that we're gonna acquire in the trailer court.
Okay, is there a motion to write those off?
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Councilor Godey,
I'll second.
supported by Councilor Hess. Any further questions or comments on proposed action? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and then 17.5, resolution 2024-27 is, I believe, the resolution to authorize the purchase of the tax forfeit parcels to which the city administrator just referred.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2024-27.
Moved by Councilor Hess.
Supported.
Is supported by Councilor Hanson. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we've adopted that resolution. Moving on to agenda item 17.6, resolution 2024-28, the animal ordinance amendment, which again we discussed briefly in our preceding meeting. There's a proposed resolution there. To get it on the table, is there a, let's see, there are actually 2 items in our agenda, right? One of them is the resolution to implement the ordinance that's on the second page, right?
Yeah, it shows what's being changed. Yep.
What changed and,
Again, it's going off of the rabies certificate, and this would be to move to install this in 2025. So we'll be going off the rabies certificates, not off of the annual basis now.
I do have one question on if, and I'll use my own example, if my dog's current license runs out January of '25, she's not due for her rabies until August. Would that license in January, how's the city gonna work that? Would
Well,
you prorate that to,
We wouldn't prorate it. What we would do is if you're, let's say in 2025, your certificate is due at the end of that year. You would just pay basically for the year, get your certificate done, and then when you bring that in, then we could do it 3 years from then.
then it would fall due
Then it
when
would fall off
the
that.
rabies
Yep,
comes due?
yep.
Okay.
And I just had a quick question, not a pet owner, so. But say you buy a 3-year license, pet dies after year 1, somebody comes back to the city and says, I want a refund for those 2, would we be set up to do that? I'm just playing it ahead.
Yeah,
It's
You get
easier
a
to get money
refund
into
from the
the city.
veterinarian for the rabies?
You know,
Yeah.
I, just so we don't get in, just so we
Yeah.
don't get into something down the road.
we're not set up for that, and I guess I would default to the attorney's comment on
I mean,
that.
it would be council decision, but the veterinarian wouldn't give you back the vaccination, so, but I mean, it would be, you know, once you go down that path, if you reimburse for one, well, then you're pretty much stuck reimbursing for all of them.
Yeah.
I'm not for reimbursing, but if somebody would ask that question.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if they had that concern, if their dog is old or sickly, not saying that healthy dogs can't die, but they could opt for the 1 year, and I don't know what the license is, it's not,
No, it's not
There are rabies vaccinations that are good for a year, and there's some that are good for 3. So if they're not comfortable with that, they could just do the 1 year shot and do it every year.
yeah.
Councilor McCloskey, it seems like you had a great deal of idle time these hypothetical
I
situations.
saw a lot of pets chasing cars, let's just say.
Oh, okay.
There's a long drive back.
Councilor Godey?
So if they had an older dog and they thought it was towards the end of its life, but they just got a 3-year vaccination, could they opt to buy 1 year at a time?
Sure.
Okay. Well,
Make your decision.
yeah,
I mean, they can get rabies vaccinations for 1 year. I guess the 3 years kind of nice because you're not going into the vet every single year to do it. So they're saving money on the vet, but maybe on the license they're not.
I think White Lakes has a 2-year license right now, you know, but I don't think it's tied to the rabies.
Usually it's 1 year for a puppy, cause I just got
Yeah,
mine.
that's,
Mine's a puppy, I had it for 1 year.
Mhm.
Now it's over a year, so I got it for 3 years.
Mhm.
All right, can we have a
I'll
motion?
make a motion to adopt resolution 2024-28.
Councilor S. has made the motion, is there support?
I'll support it.
Councilor McCloskey, our curious council member. So we have the motion on the table, it's been supported, any further discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We have our new animal control ordinance amendment. 17.7, the citywide cleanup, we had a brief discussion of that also coming up. One of the comments that we had in our earlier discussion, what kind of action, city administrator, do you think we need to take? Or-
We just need to, we're gonna make a motion that the spring cleanup week will be the same as 2023. And it will start on June 3rd. So we'll run the same ad, the same pickups, with the garbage being picked up by the East Range Sanitation, and, you know, we've got things that we go out and pick up and whatnot. So, spring cleanup week will be the week of June 3rd, running concurrently the same ad and everything that we ran in 2024. No changes.
To get it on the table, a motion? Councilors?
I'll make motion.
Motion by Councilor Hess, support by Councilor Hanson. Yeah, so I guess this is notice to our citizens to begin accumulating their curb contributions. And let's see, we have adequate funds in our budgets and everything. All right. So any further questions from the councilors on the proposed cleanup? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's good to get that set on the calendar. 17.8, Cannabis Enforcement Committee. We're realizing we're dealing with a fluid situation that is dependent a lot on how the legislature acts, but I do think the city administrator and his staff are giving us good advice to begin to prepare for some decisions up ahead. I would suspect that any enforcement committee would have both counselors and administrative staff on it? Or what?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So from the standpoint of the council, we can have 2 members on a planning committee like that. Are there volunteers that would like to serve on that?
Oh, I will.
All right, Councilmember Clausage will. No special privileges, huh? Another counselor, or? Sure. All right, Councilor Hanson also, so, I'll make a motion that we, appoint the 2 counselors to be on our, cannabis enforcement committee, to be joined by, city administrator and,
Our deputy clerk
or
and,
deputy clerk.
And the chief of police.
and the chief of
Chief of
police.
police, good
Yep.
idea, yeah.
Or his designee, you know, if he's
Yeah.
not available, or,
Somebody from East Range.
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So, did we have a motion or just discuss it? I don't think we have a
I think it's
motion.
better to do it by motion because it's a record.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to, put Counselor McCosich and Counselor Hanson on a cannabis enforcement committee along with the police department and city administration.
And, yeah,
Very good.
Deputy clerk.
Moved by Councilor Hess,
Also
supported by Councilor Godey. Any further discussion on that? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll be waiting the direction from the legislature on that. 17.9, other matters, city administrator, anything to come before us?
No, I do not. Just a friendly reminder that the industrial park meeting is at the community center this Thursday from 4:30 to 6:30. So make sure everyone shows up for that.
And dinner will not be served.
Dinner will not be served.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that.
Moved by Councilor Godey,
Support it.
supported by Councilor Hanson. Anticipating no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned until Tuesday, April 16th.